of Selma Feriani Gallery. Umer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming, and thanks to Art Basel for Hong Kong for having us here. And I'm amongst 4 very exciting galleries who are actually exhibiting in the fair, and I'd highly appreciate if you can go and look at their booths, which would be a very nice interaction to the work of what they represent and what they reflect in their programs. I'd like to thank everyone at Art Basel for having us here, especially me coming all the way from Dubai. So I really appreciate Stephanie, Jessica, Joey, and of course the director of Art Basel Hong Kong. I thought about the format to be more sort of simpler than usual conversations. I think we wanted to really have a very casual conversation. Possibly in the audience it would be much more nicer, make it more relaxed. But looking at the galleries, I was also very closely following how each gallery represents or reflects their intention. I mean, there is this particular sort of stereotype which we all have in our head about what a gallerist does, you know. I mean, we do a lot of things. And specifically the age group we're in, so everyone has a unique voice, and they project it through their presentations. At the same time, they're also exploring regions and promoting a particular region. In that case, Mihai, from Gallery Plan B, started the gallery in Romania, in Cluj, and then later on moved on to Berlin, where he also has a second space. And while speaking with Mihai on Skype, we were generally talking about what makes his program unique, and that's where I really thought it would be interesting to not have a very elaborate slide presentation, rather fixed to one image and them discussing about each image, what exactly makes it unique or stands out for what they do as gallerists, as an artist. And Mihai was a painter. So it will follow with Billy, who's the curatorial director at Magician's Space. And he would, of course, elaborate more in depth of how he moved from London to Beijing and how he started taking over the curatorial side of the program at Magician's Space. Pei-Yu running Project Fulfilled Space in Taipei. Again, I think there are some interesting threads which will all connect while we discuss this, and you'll see them individually on just one slide. So there'll be one slide which you can see, and then I would actually appreciate if we all keep our attention here and then look back at the image and then look at how they sort of discuss their gallery. And Selma Feriani, whom I'm very good friends with also, because I've met Selma at art fairs and in London, where one of her spaces is, and in Tunis, and very proudly representing North Africa at Art Basel. And she's the first gallerist in the history of Art Basel who actually is participating both in Hong Kong and in Basel in June in statements, and we will be facing each other in June, because I'm also presenting a statements booth in Art Basel. We can turn the slide on, and I'll start off with Mihai, and it will be very, you can go to the next slide, thank you. Mihai, floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so when we started the gallery, the Plan B gallery in the Romanian city of Cluj 10 years ago, that was 10 years ago, which are flying fast, these 10 years. One of the artists, Cristi Pogăcean, immediately came with a request somehow. He said, "Okay, look, you want to play the galleries now, and so I have a task for you, quite a difficult task. You should bring my image to the top, right? This is what galleries do. Huh? To bring the image of the artist to the highest peaks, yeah? To the top." And he said, we'll do it for real. I mean, he said, we'll go to the highest mountain of Romania, and you will carry a flag with my portrait printed on it. And it was really a difficult task because we went together. He was filming, and I was. We are, to make it clear from the beginning, we are not mountain people, so we were artists, let's say. Yeah. So it was really difficult and dangerous, but we succeeded in, I know, putting the flag there up in the. And what came out of this beautiful, let's say, collaboration was a video. It's a video which preserves a poetical feeling. It's a poetical way of talking about to talk about a pragmatic relation between the gallerist and the artist, you know. So it was like a contract in a way, like an unwritten contract. This is what you have to do now from now on. And yeah, the film itself was. It's a poetical film. It's about, I don't know, conquering the mountain. It's about you know, the sound is with you hear the wind. It has something from this almost problematic aesthetics, because it's like a kind of Leni Riefenstahl movie. I know, conquering the mountain. The portrait on the flag, so has something romantic and dangerous in a way, but actually it's about, yeah, something very pragmatic.
I also felt that our conversation was primarily it was beyond just discussing commercial market. I think a lot of younger galleries are very closely collaborating with artists. As this image speaks, like, you know, literally the gallerist becomes the content of the work as well. And you know, this very simple gesture you were talking about, lots of hierarchies being broken or stereotypes being broken. Then when I moved that question to Billy, Billy brought in something quite exciting and very unique in its own way. Again, moving away from the four walls, which a lot of gallerists are trying to achieve through outreach, and having a parallel program, as Selma also is very much interested in starting up a project space in Tunis, and then how these artists who have never seen the light of an institution or a formal art viewing space. And I think these are very crucial points which a lot of galleries are really focusing on. And this project of Billy's artist was, it really stood out, and it made a lot of sense. And you will see just one image. I mean, he told me that there were lots of mobile phone pictures taken at that time, because it was an event which was outside the gallery where his artist made a fictitious vodka distillery, and they were drinking and discussing art. So this next image.
I thought I should start with a disclaimer. I'm one person of three people. The gallery was founded in 2008, called Magician Space, and it was started by an artist called Curatorial. And then I've started to work with them in the last 3 years. Like, I'm from London, and working as a writer and translator and a curator. And so I thought I'd contribute this image. It's a project by an artist that's really deeply inspired me, and I think it's part of the DNA of the gallery as well. He's an artist called Yu, and it's since the early times, basically. He's been working with Magician Space. And for his projects, he decided to create a distillery, which is a really kind of semi-legal proposition, where he wanted to make this homemade brew, like this vodka. And so throughout the duration, it was like 43 days, there was this kind of constant sort of distillation of vodka. And parallel to this, he had this open call to organize some discursive events. And for me, it was like, it came kind of, there was this nice parallel with what we do as gallerists, in the sense of almost being on the cusp of control, like this adventurism, this willing to take risks, and like where. I mean, it's something that I actually enjoy quite a lot. So, I mean, it led to some interesting, diverse activities. And it kind of veered from some lectures to all sorts of participations from the locals. We had like ping pong tournaments with factory workers. It's important to say, like, actually, the area where this project took place is Heichao. It's just near our gallery. It's sort of on the periphery of the city in Beijing, where lots of artists living side by side with migrant workers. It's kind of this kind of village as well. So it's this kind of shifting population. It's kind of quite fascinating. Yeah.
You have some text on you, and you wanted to read it out. If you want, please go ahead.
Okay.
Something which is very interesting also, what I read, and Billy just brought it along.
I should change my mind. Okay. So I wrote this text, actually, sort of, as you can imagine, drinking lots of vodka, trying to do these kind of events, and, like I thought it'd be nice to document this. I'm looking down at a glass offered to me by the artist Yu Begong, what is essentially called moonshine, a glass filled with illicitly distilled alcohol created for the artist's eponymous brand of vodka. A further leap of faith and an extra level of engagement appears to be needed here. We are presented with a homemade, possibly illegal artwork, and I'm required to consume it through drinking. I look at the glass, and after a brief moment, I duly down the contents in one go.
Moving on, I again, as I said, that you're looking at images of again another mean of communicating through the concept of running galleries and how one structures their programs. And a lot of galleries are specifically looking at structures within the space, if not outside. And Pei-Yu, we spoke a little bit about how each project is made to measure in the space which you run in Taipei. Again, it is a sort of a very interesting gesture where artists gets the opportunity to fulfill their desire. That's why the name Fulfill Project Space. So they are really fulfilling their intentions, and the gallerist is someone who's very closely looking at every aspect and detail of the project. And the next image will give you a little bit of insight into an artist who's also actually exhibiting in the booth, which I would highly recommend you all to have a look at. Next slide.
This is the artist called Wang Furui. Actually, he's a sound artist. And for this installation, it's interactive. The girl on the holding on is a device that you have to extract the sound from that device. And that device, that sound, actually, all of these squares within it has sound, which is recorded inside my gallery or just around my neighborhood. Yeah, though this is really like site-specific installation, and particularly in my space and within my neighborhood, that I was talking with the artist a lot of times. And a thing to mention is that in my booth, actually, for site-specific installation, I actually asked the artist to drill like over 200 holes on the wall. And while I was doing that in the first day of installation, like every single gallerist walking past by me were like looking at me and the wall, like very, very surprising. And the eyes also said, gosh, do you know how much that cost? And also, are you crazy? Because everybody knows that how much the wall cost. But I just told my artist that this is what we want to do, and I know what you want to do, to present exactly being as a site-specific installation artist, my other artist, I said, just do it. Let's just do it. Yeah, so this is my goal. And also Selma too. We were also mentioned we were talking in the room, and she is exactly like the goal is exactly like mine.
Which was, again, unintentional, but which is great. The intentions are similar here. I think it's very important to mention here that the Project Fulfill Art Space brings about a unique work every show, which is made on site. And these are propositions of, I mean, they probably have history. Historically, a lot of galleries have given their spaces to artists to work, but knowing the structure of things, knowing the expense and amount of pressure we all are always under, it's very, it's very, I would say, appreciated on the fact that you're doing this constantly. I mean, we all go through the highs and lows, but it's really admirable. Selma Feriani Gallery, again, looking at a region which probably is pretty much on the map, courtesy her gallery now. A lot of artists who are, if not living in Tunisia, living elsewhere. But Selma has opened up a space in Tunis now, where she has a program structured around, I would say, 5 shows a year.
Yes.
And then bringing and bridging these conversations. And I think what I like about these events is that you're listening to almost the backdrop of what we are usually showing ourselves in the hall. You know, it's nice to talk and express these anxieties and excitements. So Selma has an image which you will see, and then she can give you a little bit of insight into the project which we discussed.
So when I opened the space in Tunis, I decided to take an old convent and convert it to a gallery space. I didn't want to have a white cube space and have a kind of a London normal space. So I have chosen this space because of the weird shape and the idea of every project will be site-specific. In this image, we have Ligne Fantôme, so Phantom Line by Ismail Bahri, that he did in the gallery, installing these pins on the wall. And for us, it was quite difficult actually to attract public to the space. In Tunisia, they're not very much used to contemporary practices and going to exhibitions and museums. We don't have any museum and we don't have public spaces. So we decided to take this work outside in the neighborhood. So the artist moved outside and did the same installation on the walls of the village where we are in the town, in Sidi Boussaïd in Tunis. And people were talking to the artists, and then they wanted to follow him and come to the gallery. And that's how we decided that will be a good idea to start attracting public to the gallery, which was a struggle at the beginning. So that's why I have chosen this image.
Going back to Mihai, I think since we have time, we have to kill the time now. Yeah, lots of chatting.
Okay. Let's do it.
I wanted to just bridge this idea of an artist-led space. I mean, this is a phenomena which has been around for some time. And it's very interesting how you began the space in Romania and then moved on to Germany, to Berlin. Is there any particular story you'd like to share which you feel also reflects of what all you have done as a gallery, or something which is partly unique other than your performance of taking that artist on top of the hill. Just to sort of, create that ease which a lot of people don't experience, just for sharing it.
Yeah, actually, I never looked for something, let's say, special. What I'm always looking for something which is, I wanted to integrate the program in a more larger and complex art scene, you know. So I didn't want to be different. My goal is to stay in this field in the next 20 years or 30 years. Coming from East, I was not so much interested in creating a new, exciting project, but more in creating something which will, will not fade away in the next days. You know, so it will be, clear, conceived, and so not that's the main value, I would say. So there are not so many stories to tell. Actually, that was let's say a funny approach, and also a key image, let's say, for what an artist trans space means. The one with the project with the flag, but there are years of taking care of the gallery space, doing production, working with the artists, and trying to be as serious and as classical, if I can say, as you can. So this is our art scene in Romania, and in general in East. Is lacking this kind of attitude somehow to really build an institution which will exist also tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, not to jump from one, let's say, cool project to another cool project, and so we wanted to stay away from this kind of approach. Yeah. And that's very important for us to stay. My goal is to stay in this field. In the next, it's a time-based project. That's very important. So, yeah.
And Billy, we both went to the same school, which is interesting. Billy was in London at the Chelsea College of Art and Design, and you were practicing artist also in London. Were you? Were you making work?
It was actually much more informal. I think I was like in college. I was a really bad student, always like distracted. I tried to avoid making artwork, so I ended up curating shows and then writing, basically doing everything apart from creating a resolved artwork, which was.
And you had mentioned that your travels to China and London, between China and London, were frequent.
Yeah, so I was like really super curious, and I began a relationship in Beijing, working with like film collectives. I mean, that's how I got to know the artists, and it was through these kind of natural conversations that it became really immediate that there was a lot of interesting things that were happening, but just kind of confined to the city, and that was kind of language and cultural issues involved. And so, like, I initially started like helping to translate work for them, just to broaden the audience, so it could sort of resonate on different levels, but also to try to sustain something and have beyond sort of like an initial context that it could evolve somehow. I mean, like what you were talking about before as well, it sort of resonates as well in the sense that the idea that in Beijing, there are often like a lot of the exhibitions that they're invited to abroad is very sort of about mapping things, like the territory. It becomes, it was very important at a certain period of time. Like to introduce and to flesh out the context, to engage with these artists. I mean, it's a big distance. And now it's time to do something a bit more interesting, I think, where things are much more horizontal now. Like this has been done, and really trying to sort of push this somehow. So it might mean like maybe in the future we will also consider moving as well, just to have another point to play between, another dynamic. But also for me, like the focus is as well like on the smaller things, like the quality of the writing, sort of sustaining this as well. Really having like these kind of conversations with the artists and documenting it. These simple things. The backdrop is, for Beijing, it's a very chaotic, and often you get lulled into a speed of having to like keep up pace with like lots of exhibitions, commitments, and then there's art fairs as well, obviously.
Could you tell us about your founders,
Sure.
the backgrounds, which I think is very interesting for the audience to know how Magician Space exactly operates?
Sure. Similar to me, actually, I guess, kind of resistant to like one sort of singular persona or identity. So immediately after he graduated, he went on another sort of divergent path as well. He's much more of the practical person. I'm the person that sort of breaks things down. So he started a business to fabricate artworks initially for public sculptures across China. There's a big demand, in these kind of people squares, these kind of really bad modernist kind of metal things. So he's really sort of really into materials, like this kind of as an artist, like I remember this as well. There's a simple joy of just making something, and like when I have conversations with him, he has that. And so this is this kind of other sort of extra thing we have for our gallery as well, is that he has this facility. He's a facilitator as well to sort of directly link conversations with the artists with really artisan things as well.
Selma, anything you would like to add? Of course, you're also based in London, and the gallery is in London at the same time. And we were discussing the fact that you were living in Edinburgh, working before starting the gallery.
Yeah.
How did that transition took place, working in the corporate world and then moving into something quite challenging?
I studied finance and I ended up in Edinburgh as an analyst for a few years, but I was extremely bored and not happy. My mother is a gallerist, and I started. I've been working with her in my free time, and
Where is the gallery exactly?
My mom in Tunisia, modern art, and I've been collecting. So I started collecting with the little money I had working in finance when I started as a junior. Then I decided, when I moved to London, I didn't want to look for a job in finance, and I started the gallery. And then I felt, going home actually quite often, I felt it was very important to do something in Tunisia. And I was in touch with many artists there, and I see them struggling all the time, not able to produce, not able to show their work. And none of the artists basically were exhibited anywhere. You cannot find the Tunisian artist in any outside Tunisia showing. And even, last year was the first time in Venice Biennial that they show a Tunisian artist ever. So I felt that something could be done. And with minimal, not necessarily investing a lot, but trying to work with artists who would use very simple materials, and they don't necessarily need a lot, but they could make interesting, conceptual, experimental work. And then work on the public to try to bring as many people as possible to the gallery. So, as you can see, we wear like different hats, and we have to, because we are in a strange geographical zone where things are not easy. But I still think there's a lot to do, and things will yeah,
Of course.
will
I mean,
improve with time.
This is amazing. So third year now.
Yes, we opened the space in Tunisia in 2013, and yeah, so yes, yeah.
Pei-Yu, I was discussing in your booth the project of the same artist. We saw the slide, and at the same time, a very interesting news that you broke, which was sort of the kind of pressures which galleries have to take on their shoulders. I mean, it's quite, I would say, sad, but at the same time, something I think you should share with the audience, because you don't know. People don't see things sometimes.
Well, I've already told a lot of people in the past few days. Actually, I have 2 booths for Basel, Hong Kong this time. One is in my booth, 1C25. The other one is on the ocean right now. Because the boat that carry my work, first booth, were out of power after sailing only 300 meters away from Taipei coast. So and then the boat actually hit the rock, so it stopped there. And the weather recently in Asia was really bad, so it cannot be, even dragged back to Taipei. And so right now my works are floating, like in a romantic way, floating on the ocean. And so that's why I need to do site-specific installation. It's because, thank God, I have to say, luckily I brought 2 artists. One is installation artist. So instead of showing the wall-bound work, we just hit the wall. We just drill the walls and do something on site. And the other artist, the sound installation artist, we brought only portion, just part of the installation, so he can actually give us another portion for us to show. So Plan B here, actually we made it in 2 days. And then ship it to Hong Kong by air this time, so not by boat. And actually, when I heard Selma, our background is similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was graduated also in finance field, but I didn't work in the bank or anything, because I know this really not me, not for me, because the Asian entrance exam. Sometimes you chose something that you didn't even know, and you just went in and then just realized, God,
that's not for me.
What am I doing? Yeah, so I feel like we are the same.
Well, I found it actually helpful to run the gallery, because it is quite a complicated system actually, with the production and selling and the numbers you're gonna need to. I thought it was helpful actually to study.
Flop artists, 2 successful ladies from the finance,
That's why we sit like this.
Yeah.
Separate.
Right.
Keep them away from
Which one were you?
We did an exhibition in our gallery. One of my artists, he curated a show, and we actually wore T-shirts which had printed at the back. I was a flop gallerist, she was a flop artist, and she curated a show because she was a bad artist. I mean, this is a while back. But Plan B, the name of the gallery, very important, I think, since your Plan B is floating in the sea.
Plan A.
Plan A, sorry, yeah. Plan B is in the... So Plan B, the name.
Yeah, the name. The name is coming from it's not an invention. It's real in terms of it's about my past. So it's I run the program of a small space belonging to the Art Academy in Cluj. It was a gallery. It was a difficult time because the professors were quite conservative. So at a certain point I stopped. I said no, I divorce. So. And then, but that was very important for me because it was the place where I met the core group of the gallery, of Plan B gallery. but it became later Plan B Gallery. So it was very good in terms of experience. It was painful in terms of I know administration and relation with the context. So I said that if I will open another gallery one day, I know it now. I know how to approach this, to modulate this situation, and that's Plan B. That was Plan B. So I called it Plan B. Taking into consideration the previous experience. It's a project built on the previous experience. So yeah.
Anything you'd like to add, either of you? Anything you want to? Sorry?
Painful.
Yeah, I think when we discussed this, we thought that usually you have this Q&A session which opens after we finish talking, and when this thing is asked that there are any questions, there's this slight silence, which I find very, I would say, scared. I'm quite scared that there's no questions. But I would really appreciate that if you guys have time, do visit their booths. They've put in a lot of effort and with a lot of love, because each gallery has a very unique program and what they exhibit. So, and if you have questions to them, please go to their booth and they'll be happy to answer, because I also think it's very important for visitors to interact with gallerists, which sometimes they're busy, but at the same time they're willing to give you more deeper insight into each project, work, the show. Yeah, we're nice people, all of us. Stephanie, is she here? No. She's out. It's okay? Yeah? Good? We're good with time? Perfect. So we can close this now, right? Excellent. Thank you so much for attending the talk, and thank you all for coming, and
Thank you.
I wish you all the best for the next, today and tomorrow. And thank you Art Basel Hong Kong for having us here, and hopefully see you in Basel. Some of you. Thank you.
Thank you.